takes a, just like that on that also. And I commented, I thought I had found this was the Facebook page.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. We have a great audience here tonight in person, and thank you for those of you that are tuned in online. I'm Dominish Miller, and Jim McClure, Jamie Norpel, and I are sort of in charge of Writers Roundtable. So for tonight, we're going to start, I'm introducing Nicole Smith in a few minutes, and she's going to talk about some events coming up with the York County History Center, and then we're going to hear from the Ramblers, and then afterwards, we're going to have a little bit of time for our local historians and writers in the audience to come up and tell us a little bit about their projects. But for now, we're going to introduce Nicole Smith.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see so many people and so many new faces. Just a couple announcements from the History Center. This program is being recorded and will be on our YouTube channel under York County History Center. We have a couple programs coming up. Our second Saturday program on September 13th is especially for families. There'll be activities for younger children that day. Our Civil War Roundtable program is on September 17th. The speaker is Dr. Charles Fennell, and he'll be speaking about the cornfield at Antietam or the wheat field at Gettysburg in comparison. And then September 18th is the History Center's annual meeting for members. So please visit our website, yorkhistorycenter.org, and we do have a sign-up sheet tonight if you want to join our email list. That's a way to get up-to-date information twice a month. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jim McClure, and I want to talk for a second about this Writers Roundtable is really under Nicole Smith's our boss, and we the Writers Roundtable is basically trying as a networking group, but also we bring together writers that might be writing for our journal, York County Heritage. So if you're a writer and you have a research topic in mind, the deadline for next year is December 1st, and we're looking particularly for writers that can write on the Declaration of Independence or the colonial period in York County. And so this is last year's, the next one's coming out any day, and it's going to be even thicker than this one. So if you are a writer and you, one of the great things about it is, because I've been in there a couple of times, is Becky Anstein, wherever she is, has been in there about every issue. She's hiding back there, but she'll be in this issue, and it's a way of bringing new subjects to light, but also your work will be preserved forever. It's on the internet, but this is a written thing that will be around forever. Who knows what will happen to the internet with all of our archives on the internet someday. And and also another thing that we do is we have these quarterly meetings, and they're networking for writers and researchers, but we also bring together, try to have speakers who maybe aren't as familiar to the public as others. Now, tonight is an example of that, but the speakers tonight are familiar to the public in a different way via Facebook and other ways. But we hope this is the start of a long number of public presentations that'll come your way. I know you've already been around down to Bel Air, Harbor to Grace, and so forth, the Ramblers, and hopefully this will you'll be around York County and people can enjoy what we're going to enjoy tonight. Jay Mackley, Chip Fulmer, and Dennis Brooks are the Susquehanna Ramblers, and they really do work the right way. They just don't go out on a boat. They do go out on a boat, but they don't go just to go on a boat and without intent. And they really do their homework in advance. They do research in advance, so they know where they're going whenever they go out in a boat. And some of the research is done downstairs at the York County History Center archives that Nicole heads up the ladder. Nicole's now up the ladder, and there's Adam Bentz is the archivist that's running it. And so, in fact, I think I don't know if you'll say that this tonight or not, but one of the scrapbooks down there that have been most helpful to you all overall are downstairs. The bear scrapbooks, I believe, or the bear diary, the documentation is downstairs. But anyway, hopefully you can tell us tonight some of the places that you go for your research. Not only do you do the research, but then you go to places, the Ramblers go to places that we only wish we could go to. On banks of the river, places on the river itself. And it's really remarkable to see what they produce every Wednesday. And they're one of the things that the Ramblers does that we don't always see is they publish their work every week. And I think that's why you are here, because you've seen their work on Facebook. And it's not just it's multiple pictures. It's written with a great fun tone, and it reflects the fun that the Ramblers have. And I think it kind of makes us want to go out in the river ourselves and maybe avoid stepping on snakes. I hope you tell us how you go about doing that. But one of the reasons for the success further on, we talked about doing the research, talked about doing the legwork, the tramping on the banks and floating in the river or motoring in the river, and then posting on Facebook. But then their Facebook group is, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 members or something. They then share it to other groups. This is something a lot of historians don't do who are on Facebook, is they take their work and they share it to other groups. So they multiply their work many times. And so they've gained a regional following that way, and maybe even beyond. And we can see from our audience here tonight that you all are really engaged in their work. So without any further delay, Jay, you have the floor. Thank you, Jay Meckley.
Well, I'm glad to see a big crowd here tonight. I was afraid there wouldn't be anybody. They'd cancel it. Let me get set up here for a minute. Well, I'm getting set up. This was one of the hardest things I ever did. They told me I had to have 45 slides. I ended up with about 136 slides. I worked it down about 120, and I got desperate and I called the two Ramblers in. I said, I really need help. So they came in and started slashing and cutting all the slides. And 45 is the number. You talk a minute on it and on each slide. So I give you 45 minutes. So they cut and slashed, and after they're done, they're okay, we did it. So we got 77 slides. And it's so much information that we wanted to share with you. So I'm gonna have to speed talk. We're gonna flip through the slides real quick. Like Jim already said, a lot of our rambling has been in archives. Not a lot of it, but we do a lot of rambling in the archives, and the three of us really enjoy that, going to the archives. And we hit Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland. And so some of the slides you see tonight will be in the archives. What you're looking at there is the plan and profile of the Susquehanna Tidewater. It contains all the maps, profile maps of the Susquehanna, and it covers everything from Wrightsville down to Havre de Grace. It's 42.2 miles. We have walked it, we boated and took the car, but we covered all 42 miles. And out of that, we found 18 out of the 29 locks along the canal. Those maps show you every structure that was built, every building was built, every lock, anything along there before 1875, it still exists. So that's a big help to us to find what we're looking for. Like Jim said, another thing we use before we go out is Robert Baer's photograph album. He has something like 360 photographs in it. We pick out one to try to locate it. And one thing I spend a lot of time on newspaper.com. If some of you want to do a research, that would be a good thing to get into. But once you get into it, you're going to go down a rabbit hole and never come back out. And, but I'll bring up some topics, I'll mention some of the things that we haven't found. If you wanna look for it, you know, it's out there. Oh, gee, I forgot to put up, give me a minute, I forgot to put up the oldest thing I got. Oh. That's 62 years old there, right? 68? About 77.
How about 78? Yeah.
Yeah, about 78.
I thought you were gonna say Chip.
Okay, like I said, there's a few things that we don't have answers for. I'll mention it to you if you want to research it. You can probably find it somewhere. But we do have a surprise for everybody tonight. We're gonna load everybody, we're gonna ramble the river. We're not gonna talk about, you've got people who are gonna ramble with us. Give us a second here.
Rambling here.
We're gonna put you on that packet boat and we're gonna go downriver. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna start out in the Columbia Canal. Let me get my clicker here. Put it next. And before we go out of the canal, it's loaded with canal boats. And one thing that we could never find, and there was a big boat builder over there, his name was Harper. Oh gee, hang on, I had his name memorized, Hartford Farley. And he did a lot of canal boat building and he did a lot of repairs on boats. But he advertised, he did comb deck boats. And we've been looking for years for what a comb deck boat is. I don't know what that is. A lot of people ask, you know, what happened to all these canal boats after they shut down the canal? A lot of them laid right where when they shut them down, they covered them over. But they got two pallets out of Marietta, two famous pallets. Water. Hang on. Frederick Waller and Ike Hempel, and they would float them down. They floated something like 30 or 40 of these canal boats from here down to Port Deposit, and they sold them and they used them for different material. Okay, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go out this canal lock here. And then you can see the bridge abutments, and we're gonna go over to Wrightsville. As we're going over, I see a lot of you a little shushly out there. And everybody's opening windows on the canal boat. My God, you're kicking the straw around on the floor. Somebody complained about odor. Little strong, air is a little strong. Hey, back here in the back, could you open the back hatch up, get some air going through here? There you go. Open that back hatch up, we'll get some air going through here. It won't smell so bad. We got the canal boat off of David Rawhauser. David Rawhauser had a packet boat business, and he lived down in Lockport, and that's right at the outlet block across from the Conestoga River. And David, after we're done here, David will go down to Muddy Creek, take the packet boat down to Muddy Creek, and he loads up raft people that raft down the river. Now, a lot of them got down early, and some of them were drinking, and he'll come up and he'll stop at Lock 13 at Slant Tavern, pick up more raft people and take them up to Wrightsville, and they sleep going the whole way up. And then when they get up there, they get a good night's sleep, and they'll get a raft and float down the next morning. The one problem with the one trip up, they stopped at York Furnace. There's three guys standing there. There's a doctor, a newspaper person, and a friend, and they flagged the packet boat down, and they thought they would ride it. And the newspaper guy wrote a story, a whole column on the packet boat, and Dominic's gonna read part of it to you.
Okay, so this is from the Daily Express, August 17th, 1875. It was agreed to wait for the packet, supposed to be provided with comfortable sleeping bunks. So we waited, and when it did come, we all went for it. Walked the plank and got on the upper deck. Looking down through the hatchway, Oh, what a sight met our view. A thin layer of straw over the bottom and every inch covered with boatmen on their return westward. The captain came around collecting fare for the boatmen, and a man must have a hard cheek to charge for such a wretched accommodations. But John Hudson is the man that can and did do it, and not abate a farthing.
So I can understand why everybody a little persnickety here tonight. We'll get moving and get the air moving and be okay. And while we're coming across the bridge, next.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting on the top there looking for rocks, okay? So you guys be comfortable. You know, back in 1963, Gerald Smeltzer wrote a book, The Canals Along the Lower Susquehanna River. Had a great book, and but he had one thing in there about bridge sticks. Anybody know what a bridge stick is? No canal people?
Is that
Yeah, well, I'll tell you here. Here's a bridge stick. Here's a bridge stick. So, but what he wrote in the book, he said the bridge stick was to keep from pulling the mules into the water. Okay. And that bothered me for 40 years. I always stuck in my mind. Something didn't seem right there, but I loved the book. I loved what Smeltzer wrote, so I went along with him. And we're down in Haverty Race at the Lock Museum, and the artist came in with that poster. We're sitting there going through all the photographs, and I don't know if I was trying to show off or what. And I said to the guy, do you know what that is? And he said, yeah, it's a bridge stick. I said, you know what it's for? He said, sure. And at that moment, when he explained it to me, I had an epiphany. Did you ever have any of that epiphany? It was like an aha moment, and man, the lights came on. And he said, sure. He said, if you look over here in Columbia, that's a mile and a quarter. And if they would drag that rope across that railing, the rope is hemp and jute, it would fray out and eventually tear. And I thought, this guy's right. So I'm 80% believing the artist. And 20% because the mule's still got to have the same kind of straight back pull. You can't have a different kind of pull on it. Now this fella here, anybody know what he's called? He's called the driver, and he'll walk on mules. And there's a guy that made saddles in Columbia. They'd advertised in the paper in the 1850s in the Riceville Star about these boat harnesses. And we could never we tried to figure out what a boat harness was. And there was a guy in Columbia that advertised too at the same time. He was Farley, J.C. Farley, and in Columbia Spy, he would advertise boat harnesses. And we can never figure out what a boat harness was. Next. A boat harness, the mules, when they pulled the canal boats, they never walked abreast, they were staggered. So they had to have a special boat harness. And normally, in them advertisements that they put in the paper, he also had a common harness and a light harness. Common harness was for the mules to pull plows, light harness to pull buggy. But the regular boat harnesses were specially designed that each mule would have a little tug on them. Okay, we're gonna enter the Tidewater Canal and we're gonna drift down through Wrightsville a little bit. Next. There's a boat harness, and there's your driver. And normally the drivers, if you had a family operating the canal boat, they put a young guy out there. They put the young kid out there driving the mules. And that's why I thought, you know, a young fellow like with a bridge stick, how could he keep the mules from falling overboard, you know? So as we go down through Wrightsville, you'll notice a big building at the very end. That tall building is the ice house. And it looks like an elevator in front. So we're gonna pass that, and we're gonna go down to Lock 1 and stop. Next. We went down to the Hagley Museum, And nobody, if you ever been there, it's a beautiful place. They give you bus tours around. It's a huge, huge estate. And we're in the Higley Museum. And when we go into these archives, normally Dennis orders the material and they come out in carts. We went to Harrisburg, they came out with 3 carts full of material. Hagley, they came out with 1 cart full. And one of the boxes was railroad. You know, and I thought railroad, and Chip looked at it, and I looked at railroad. And normally in our group, we usually assign the dumbest guy to the dumbest material. And as I was going through this, yeah, and dumbest guy, actually, we found this. This is the Columbia Wrightsville Canal Bridge. And it's one of the best ones we ever found. And if you look up here, that building up there is the Columbia Wagon Works, the Colonial Wagon Works. And they turned it into the back of shed, now it's an apartment. So if anybody wants to go over and try to do some rambling, if you go down below Plain Street and right there, Strickler Run, that's where it landed. Next. And if you want to do some searching, go back there 1 second, Dennis, real quick. I got to start talking faster. You know, when that man, H.B. Harmer, was standing on that bridge, everybody knows he had to turn around like this and snap a picture to the York side. So there's pictures out there of this on the York side somewhere. And if you could do any rambling in a museum, look for H.M. Harmer and railroad photographs. It won't be in any place else. It'll be tied in railroad photographs.
Jay, could you explain what that was?
Yeah, as a canal dam. And they backed the water up for the Susquehanna Tidewater Canal. Okay, next. This is looking at the Columbia side. If anybody wants to ramble and has a kayak, here's part of the bars that would hold down the long cribbing. And if you have a kayak, I know there's holes out there. We never did it. We wanted to do it and go across there and look for different holes and different bars going across. And we never got around to it. Next. Now this is looking from the York County side, and there's still some stone there from the dam on the York County side, the abutment, and then they had a feeder coming into the canal. But if you look across, it'd be right around here's that brick building I was telling you about. And you probably land about right there. Next. Okay, we drifted down. We headed down to the foot of the 5 mile level. And that's long level. Right now we're at Bull Run. And this building here, Mr. Oldweiler bought that, and he had a son named William Oldweiler, and he was 9 years old when he moved in, and he would sit on the porch, and he would watch all these canal boats go by. And normally it'd be about 160 a week go by. And being a kid watching, and he thought, when I get a little bit older, I want to be a driver. So he drove for years, and he did a newspaper article on him. And in the newspaper article, he said he walked thousands of miles, 16 hours a day, 3 to 4 to 5 weeks. And he loved it. He said he absolutely loved it. And then he realized when he got a little bit older, he leased the canal boats. And when you lease a boat, it's called a company boat. When you own it, it's called an individual boat. Next. Then when he got older, he was a captain. He bought his boats. He realized he could make more money if he bought the boats. And after they shut the canals down, then he built these models of the canal boats that he had. These canal boats are downstairs somewhere in storage. But when they come up the canal, after dumping the coal off, the wheelhouse there was always too high and would hit bridges. So he collapsed it and set it down, he lay it down back, right there. And what he did after they shut down the canal, he took the wheelhouse and he made a chicken coop behind his house right here. Okay. What he did, he saved it. He got a piece of wood. He saved it for 40 years. He got it out of the Wrightsville Canal Dam. And he saved that piece and he carved this model here out of it. And that's the General I.J. Wistar. And when he was young and when he was doing the canal work, on the canal boats, he'd go up and get coal. And this Wistar was a steam tug that would pull the canal boats over from across the Susquehanna up in Nanticoke. So he made a model of it. That's in the museum here. Next. Here he donating the canal boats to the Historical Society. But they have 1830, it should be a little bit later, about 1880. Next. This is the General I.J. Wistar that he carved, the model he carved. They floated this down from Nanticoke down to Port Deposit. When it came into Port Deposit, they start getting on the steam whistle and blowing the steam whistle. And the people in Port Deposit never heard a steam whistle coming from the north. They always hear it coming from Havre de Grace or coming up. And they all ran out down to the wharf to see what all the commotion was about. And here they pull in with this steamboat. They picked up Frederick Waller in Marietta to pallet the boat down to Peach Bottom. And then they picked up Mars, Felix Mars, to pallet from Peach Bottom down to Port Deposit. Next. All right, I go back at one shot. I'm sorry, I got way ahead of myself here. I forgot to tell you folks, we're gonna get off the packet boat now. Walk down the plank, be extra careful, slippery and muddy. And we're gonna go across river. I got a log raft down there waiting for you. It's 220 feet long, and I don't want you to get, I don't want you worrying about it because we got two good pallets that take us down. One of them's Eliza Fry. He owns the McCall's Ferry Hotel and the ferry. And the other guy is Washington Whitaker. He owns the hotel down in Peach Bottom. So they're going to take us across to the rafting channels, and then we're going to raft down on the log raft from here on down. Okay, now we're going to head across, and this is at the Conjahilla. All right, Conjahilla Flats. And that thing is loaded with lotus, you know, and it's the native plant, yellow flowers. Native Americans would eat the roots. They'd eat the stems, sprouts coming up. They could eat the leaves. Then the seed pods, they'd eat the seed pods. They'd grind that into flour and make flour out of the seed pods. They'd roast them. Wow. We're gonna hit the the rafting channel, and what we're gonna do is float down to Burkholder Falls. Next. This is a Benjamin Latrobe map. And the map is, he did this in 1801. And what they did, they cut a channel in along the shoreline here. The whole way down to Maryland, they dynamited the stone out. This is the old route that the rafts used to come down. And they'd circle around and come back. But they could leave, when they came around Turkey Hill, they could bring us the whole way down. And what we're interested in, he wrote the Governor McKean back in 1801, asking for money. He had the hardest time getting money out of Pennsylvania to pay these people. You know, one of the guys was George Stoner, and he was in charge of dynamiting Burkholder Falls, Point Falls, and Eshman Sluice. But when he was out there, when Latrobe was out there, he did a beautiful painting next of George Stoner's house. And it had a Schweitzer style barn, and he described where it was. So that's what we want to look for. We want to look for the foundation of these. Next. So Chip drove around and he found this, which had a Schweitzer barn, nice stone house, but it was too far away from the river. And so we kept looking. Next. So what we found was the Duck Tavern, what they call Duck Tavern. And the Duck Tavern later on, this was the place where George Stoner lived. And later on it's called Duck Tavern because when the raft, before they put the canal in, the raftmen used to hike from Peach Bottom back to Wrightsville. And they would stop at the Duck Tavern. So it's pretty famous. They had raftmen's had a path the whole way up to Columbia. Next. This is Dennis. rambling through the brambles. Here you can see the foundation here coming around. Did we show a picture? Yeah, okay. And there's part of the foundation. So we found it, we found the location that he was talking about. Okay, next thing we went after was York Furnace. And two of the things we couldn't figure out why they named that York Furnace, why the railroad named it York Furnace. And this is an easy picture. If you can bring it down a little, Dennis. We could profile this hillside in Lancaster County, so we knew we could find the location of that. And digging into it a little bit, they have notes, diaries down here of John Bear digging to flatten this area out over there. And Robert Bear, what he would do when his father was digging, he'd go over and pick up artifacts. And the major collection of his artifacts, which are here, he donated, came from this area. Next. So when we saw this photograph, it didn't look right to us. A couple of things didn't look right. It's July. And all the things are shut, everything's shut up on it. And these guys are standing out there, and we realized this was the Tonquin Club. John Bear was big into the Tonquin Club. And these are members coming into the Tonquin Club. And the only thing you're missing here is their camping gear. They would camp out. Back there was a big springs back there, and they camped out for 5-6 days. But we didn't think this looked like a train station. Go ahead next. This is a better picture, and this is the Tonquin members. You can see in 1875 they adopted a blue shirt, blue trousers, suspenders, straw hats, and these 5 kegs here of beer. We knew it was the Tonquin. We still don't see no camping gear, so we realized that this was not a train station, but a storage unit for all the camping gear that they had. Next. And then we found this plaque. If you look real close, you can see John Bear's property went down to the railroad tracks. So the train did stop there. And they would stop there, but it was for the Tonquin Club. And what the Tonquin Club members did, what happened was they had a big hotel up here. They built it, Riverview Hotel, and became very popular. And they ran a miniature railroad down here, and it got too crowded for the Tonquin Club members. And so they went across the river. So we're going to take the raft over. Oh, here's Dennis. This is the area. They had this huge flat stones that stood up on the edge to mark the location of their clubhouse there. Next. The Tonquin Club moved over to York Furnace in 1909 to get away from the crowd over in Peckway. It became too popular. One thing about this photograph, if you look up here at the windows, they're horizontal rather than vertical like this. Strange architect on it. Next. This painting was done by Jacob Hans from Wrightsville, 1858. The great thing about this, if you look at the windows there, but the great thing about this is the only image left that we know of the toll house for the bridge that went across. And you can still see that one truss still going over to Bear Island. Now, if you go down there, you will find the abutment right here. And the abutment on Bear Island. Now, right here, John Bear built a storage, the back of storage building, and it's still standing as the present day Tonquin Club. Next. John Bear lived on top of the hill at a place he named Canton Burn after his Swiss ancestors. And we found this location. We did LiDAR of the whole area. We knew he had a place on top of the hill, and in LiDAR, we zoomed in on all the stone foundations that stood up there. And if you look at the house, see the windows up there, they're horizontal like the York Furnace Hotel. And so through the LiDAR, we found out the location, we went down, next. And this is the dam down at the very bottom. And they use this to pump water up to his mansion. Now, in all the newspaper articles on the Canton Burn, they said it was the most prominent place in Lower York County. Next. So we needed a volunteer to wade across the water to get the height of the dam. Guess who they picked? So that's the dam. It's still standing. Next. And then we get on top of the hill and they have all these date stones up there, initials in with dates. Next. I have to speed up here. This has initials and dates in it. And two of the Ramblers said if they were younger, they'd try to buy the property and build a home. It's some of the most prettiest stonework still standing. And some of the stonework goes up maybe 10, 12 feet. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the one Rambler said as I was 30 years younger, I tried to buy it. The other Rambler says I was 50 years younger. Next. And these stones, they had a Slicer type barn up there with a forebay hanging out over, and underneath they had their paved stone laid down, but these were the curves of the sidewalk underneath. And this is granite out of Port Deposit, and you can see the drill holes there. Does anybody know where Indian Steps is? The stone. Paul, you can't be in it. Where's the rock?
Well, the stones down the river from the museum.
It's far. Yeah, it's right out from the council. Okay, what actually starts, Indian Steps actually starts on the rafting channel across the river. Okay, and okay, hang on 1 second. I got way ahead of my notes here. Okay, back up there one time. This is high water at Indian Steps. The guys are out there in suits walking around fishing. The next photo, low water. Okay, next. Okay, blow that up there 1 second. These steps all together are about 1,600 feet in length. Okay, and they start over. And the rafting channel on Lancaster side come the whole way over. And what they did back in the early 1820s, boats would come up the river. They'd ascend the river. And then they on the tops of the rocks, next, they put these rings in and to pull the boats up. And this here is also in the Historical Society. They have it as a fishing weight. And the story was that when that was in the rock at Indian Steps, that the fishermen used to tie a rope around them and tie it to that thing so they wouldn't fall in. But if you have any fishermen, nobody ever ties a rope around their waist. Okay, we went down river real quick. We shut down. We're moving quick here. We purposely went out to look for the any signs of the Theodore Burr Bridge, built in 1850, went across. It was one of the largest arch bridges ever built. It was 360 feet. And we went down river, couldn't find anything. Coming back up, we saw this piece of metal. And we got out of the boat next. And we noticed this channel cut in here. And then back here was a log and a rock. And we looked around a little bit more next. I'm speeding through this. And over here was another hole, and it's not a pothole. It's really rough and crude, so we knew it was man-made. Next, and there it is again. And then we noticed it had a 2-inch hole drilled in here. There's the log. That log's from 1815. Next. So we came in about 6 months later. We came over, and before we even got close to it, we noticed this socket. This was the south socket for the bridge. Next. This is what it normally looks like. When you go out there, you have to go out when they're working on the Holtwood Dam. They drop the water real low, and then you dig through about 6, 7 inches of mud to find this. Now that photograph before that We went out, everything was clean, but it had a ton of driftwood on top. If you look around here, see that piece of metal? Must be 20 pieces of metal embedded in that rock. Here's one, there's one, next. Next. So looking upriver, this is before the Holtwood Dam. These rocks here, when the dam got the water, the Holtwood got the water backed up, this rock here would be underwater about 3 foot. This is the rock where Burr cut these sockets into. Next. There you can see a man standing on top. So that gives you an idea how high. Who has his phone on? Oh my God. That's spam. I better answer spam. But using that man as a gauge, you can see how high that rock is. And we did a depth gauge here, and it drops off about 30, 40 feet there. And if you read his description of how he built the bridge, that rock there was ideal for it. Next. Now, this is all the things we found. We laid it out. We found over a period, I think 3 years, we found another hole with a log in it, another hole with a log. So we found three holes with logs and one without a log. In the south socket. Next. There was an engineer in 1902. His name was Boyd L. And he did a survey of the velocity and flow of the water right above this. And he did it for to build the Holtwood Dam. And when he did his drawing on this, he did the abutment here, and then he shows this stone line. Now he has this as gneiss. Now Jerry Jones would say it's probably Wickhation schist instead of gneiss, but on this side you don't see a abutment drawn in like that. So he must have found the rock 120 years before us. Next. This is a Scott map. That's not right. 1824. It shows Street Road coming out of Philadelphia, coming down to the bridge. This is after the bridge was going and coming across here. Next. Robert Bear's photo, another Robert Bear's photo. See the telegraph coming across. And they had a tower back in here. The tower's still standing. So this gives you an idea where the York County abutment is probably way out here on one of these rocks. Then the pier, go back in there, Dennis, a little. So the pier to the thing might have been out in here. 360 feet went from here to here. Next. Okay, we floated down river a little bit. I'm trying to speed through here as quick as we can. This is the Dam View Hotel, and that was at the right on the York County side at the foot. That's 1924. Next, this is the foundation of the dam, and then up in the woods further is it's a barn. Next. I'm gonna read that. I blow that up because I can't find my notes. It's a little thing here. When they built the dam, it was estimated that the hillside had no less than several hundred tents and shacks, each occupied by 2 or more fishermen. And that's when they start building the dam down there. And some of the dippers have brought up as high as many as 10, while 30 have been scooped up by a moon rake. Anybody know what a moon rake is? Nobody. Well, you're close. I gotta give you. Next. That's a moon rake. Now, when I was young, back in the 70s, if you hit any farm sale along the river, you could find a lot of material like this. Relate to shad fishing. And I go to public auctions and they'd be up in the barn. But I can't imagine how that man had the strength to pull up a moon rake. You put a net on there, I just can't believe somebody could lift that thing. Next. It's a Robert Bear photograph again. It shows, and this is a good one here because it tells you in 1909 it was still called McCall's Ferry Power Company. Okay, and they went bankrupt and another outfit came in. but also it's not complete. And they removed all the tracks. That's a mystery why they removed all the tracks for these cranes. They had like 3 of these. And they removed the tracks. I don't know if they removed them to keep people from stealing the metal. But here you can see all the shad fishermen down here. Next. Here's a guy with, it's not a moon rig, it's a normal rig. You look over here, you can see the Dam View Hotel and the barn. And we got that location. Go ahead. And here's another good one. This is a little bit later. The dam's built, water coming out over the top. And then you can see all these fishermen with their dip nets. This fella here has a moon rig. Next. Okay, we came down river. I mean, we're rushing this, but we came down river. And I want to bring this up here. It's a place on the York County side called Coal Cabins. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And over the years, they changed. It's right down below Muddy Creek here. And over the years, they changed. I guess because of the Pennsylvania Dutchman, when they say coal, it sounds like cold. And then they changed it. Now it's Coal Cabins. But it was one time named Dockville. But the reason they call it Coal Cabins is because they burn off all the wood on the hillsides. And the colliers, when they build them off, they'd have 8 or 10 pits. They'd make a big pit about 30 foot, and they stack 30 cords of wood up, and they would stay out there with it for 18 to 20 days making charcoal. But back in them days, the short version of charcoal was coal. So it was Coal Cabins. If you turn around and look across the river, next, you'll see Feist Eddy. This is a hotel. It's on cribbing right here. They moved it out. They're building a railroad beyond, elevating the railroad tracks, and they moved the hotel out. And good way to find these kind of locations, these early hotels always had a creek coming down in behind it for water for the hotel. And they eroded the hillside so much, they could put a road down from up above down to the hotel. So that's one thing we look for. If you find a creek, you can find the hotel foundation or any parts of it. Some of the stonework, not on this, but one of the sheds is back and behind there. They slid this out. They used this as a housing for the workers for the railroad, and then after they were done with the railroad work, they tore it down. Next. Mount Johnson Allen. Everybody knows Mount Johnson Allen. You know what it's noted for? Anybody know what Mount Johnson Allen's noted for? This land is gone now. All this land, anything left. This is one of the highest islands on the Susquehanna. It was noted for, it was an eagle sanctuary for years. And also artifacts, Paul Nevin. There's a guy down that way, lived in Della, his name was John Barrett. He found over 300 banner stones on that. But one thing it was noted for was the eastern prickly pear on the west side of the island. And if you hike up there today, it's still there. And the newspaper articles back to 1875 state, about the prickly pear on the west side of Mount Johnson Island. And let me catch up with my notes here real quick. Okay, we're gonna drift down. We're gonna drift down. We're gonna cut across the old logging trail. I mean, the old ramping trail like they normally did. This is Slate Point. Slate Point is down below Peach Mountain Nuclear Power Plant. It was a popular for picnics and everything, and Dominish probably knows about this. They had a big reunion down there. And in 1886, it was Company C from York. Are you familiar with that? It was Company C, Union Veteran Army, and they had a big encampment. And Robert Baird didn't take any pictures, but he did give a big talk down there on it. And this is one of the many openings on Slate Point. Now, when you're down on the river and going by, I went by this 100 times. I never saw any of these mines up here. Next. Now where Dennis is standing right behind him, this pile wasn't slate, it was stone. There's many articles in the paper about school teacher would take the kids out. There was a turkey vulture nest back in here. And they'd take them out and show them the turkey vulture in 1920 that. And when we got permission to go, the old fella said, wait, my age, but the old guy said, when he was a kid, the turkey vultures would nest up in there and he'd go up and look at them. Next, the one thing we're after, they had initials carved the whole way out through there. And we looked all over the hillside and we decided we had to go down over the hill. So we put rope and we did a test run. We left Chip, since he's the youngest, to do the test. And he went down. There you got Brady showing off. He's holding on with one hand. And he thinks he found something. Next. And here's a whole bunch of outcroppings with lichen on. And what we did, we got down with rotten sticks and started scraping off the lichen off of it. Next, and then we found this. Show that up there, Dennis.
Wow.
And this says at this point is 320 feet from the river at low water measured by William M. Lee, June 18th, 1854. And that is carved in there so beautiful. And it looked like it was just done yesterday. The earliest date is right in here. The earliest is 1852 somewhere. But we found a gang of rocks up in there where these initials were carved in. It's a very popular spot. It was almost like Pinnacle Point or one of your overlooks. People used to go out and go out and look down. It's 320 feet straight down. When Chip was going down, it was a little scary. Okay, we're gonna drift down river a little bit more. And we're gonna drift down to, Broad Creek. It's a little hike up through. It's a famous hemlock stand along the creek. It's gonna be a quick walk, and it's a famous hemlock stand. And then we finally get to the Green Marble Quarry, and they quarried this between 1860 to 1890. And they had a trestle built across the creek, and they would take the marble across the creek and load it on the canal, on the wagons, and take the marble down the canal. Okay, my time's up. Okay, that's it. And they take the marble, green marble down and load it on the canal boats, and they floated to Philadelphia, different places. But one of the articles it said they used the green marble, the Empire State Building, and the Empire State Building's too late for this, I think. So we're gonna float down river some more. Hang on. We floated down to Lafayette's Cove. And the reason it's called Lafayette, during the Revolutionary War, you could walk across the river. And Lafayette brought his army across right at that point. And the road is still there, it's right up here. But they had, they call them flint quarries. We call them quartzite. And they had quarries all over the hillside down there. And here's some of the boulders that I'm leaning up against. And around here, you don't find nothing that big. And what they did, there was two companies down there, Whiteford and the Trenton Flint and Spar Company. And they would heat these things up, crush them and grind them into fine powder and ship that powder over to Trenton, New Jersey, and they make fine china out of it. Okay, that's the end of the talk. I want everybody to stay on the raft. This is where the Ramblers leave you. They're gonna float you down. They're gonna be extra careful. They're gonna keep a wide berth at Job's Hole. You don't want to go near Job's Hole. And we're gonna take you down to the Conowingo Covered Bridge. You'll hike across the bridge and catch a train back to Columbia. And the Ramblers are off and running, and maybe next talk up, we'll talk about Job's Hole. That's it, thank you. Wait,
Take care, we're gonna take questions.
Okay, go ahead. If I can't hear you, Dennis will translate because I don't have my hearing aids in.
Dennis, would you and Jay stand up because we didn't introduce you. This is Dennis, this is Jay, so just want to make sure everybody knows.
We keep Chip in the audience, and he leads the applause and cheers and stuff.
Questions,
Any questions?
gotta be questions. Yeah, let's go here.
My question is, what you're talking, I only heard the word coal one time. But what was the main purpose for the,
All the furnaces, they, like down there in coal cabins, they burn off that hillside for that furnace. The furnace at Cadorus burned, charcoal. And most of the furnaces burn charcoal until they start using anthracite.
so that's what they used then, that's what the barges carried in?
They did, and that's why most of the hillsides were burned off. Now, we go out on the York and Lancaster side and we can still find, they'll dig out an area pretty flat, maybe 30, 40 foot in diameter. And they'll stack up, like I said, 30 cords of wood and to make charcoal. That man will stay out there with that for 18 to 20 days, but he won't have one pit. He'll have anywhere from 8 to 10 pits. So it was easy for him then to load them into canals or the one in, and you can even find one in Lancaster County. We found a path going down, leading down to a road. And the old roads are still there, but they didn't call it charcoal, they call it coal. And you'll see on a lot of these canal boats, you'll see on their little lady hauling coal up from Maryland. It took us a while to figure out what couldn't be coal, because coal comes from Pennsylvania. But they're hauling charcoal the whole way down through it, and the further they burn it, it kept going down and down, whole way down through. And there's newspaper articles where people floated down through and looked up and said, there's nothing on the hills. It looked like a big fire came through. Well, these guys are burning charcoal.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The properties around that area, were they just absorbed by the state? Did they take over because of the dams and all those projects? Did they just kind of?
What you mean, along the river?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they put them dams in, the power company bought up them dams.
So there's no private land down.
No,
It's all state.
there is some private land, yeah, above Holwood, there's like 8 acres, that's still private, different spots up through, but. They had a fella down below, the Holwood, between Holwood and Wingo, his name was Tom Ritchie. And he was a gatekeeper, lock keeper for Lock 1. And he refused to move. So I think they kept that. And that lock house, we think the lock house is still there. They turned it into a cabin now and it's still sitting there. But when they did it, like with Holwood, they had speculators coming out of New York and they purchased a gang of land down through. Like
It was all
Holwood.
eminent domain, so it was just taken.
Well, no, they purchased it
Yeah.
and sold it to the power companies. So the whole way up and down, and they have a book over in the Conestoga history thing that shows all the land they bought. And they couldn't figure out, they knew they're gonna build a Holwood Dam, but they had no idea where they're gonna build it. So they bought land mile or two below and up above, they bought land all over. But it was a domain then when they put the dams in. So you're actually walking on power company property down there. But mostly, like some of the locks we found, we gotta wait until they draw the water way down. And then you can find the different locations. Lock 10 above Holtwood is still there, but it's underwater, maybe under 5, 6 feet of water. So, any more questions?
Yeah, you mentioned the telegraph tower,
Yeah,
that was called, it's still there?
yeah, it's still there.
Is it along the Mason-Dixon Trail?
You can look out if you go up towards Wallace Run, Oakland Run, I call it Wallace Run, some people call it Oakland Run, and they come in together about an hour or two up. The tower is still there, and we got, Robert Baird happened to snap that photograph of the telegraph going across. But if you go down there, you can see the telegraph, that bridge abutment on Burrs, on the Lancaster County side would be about 30 yards south of that. But that's normally underwater, 3-4 foot of water most of the year.
Oh.
Then when they do drop the water, it's under mud a lot of times. We got pictures, we're out there in February spraying the mud off. It was freezing cold. Chip said, "You had enough?" I said, "Yeah, I had enough." I got the backer in. Any more questions? Okay, it's getting late.
Wonder if you could just talk, I noticed that you ordered Chip down to look at the rocks, the initials on the rocks. That's because he,
I'm not kidding about it.
I know that, but you mentioned that Chip has Mason's experiences with rocks.
Right.
Can you talk about how you divide up your work?
Well,
Research.
It's very easy. Dennis is extremely good. Dennis is extremely good with computers. I mean, very good on them. So he does most of the computer stuff. I do a lot of newspaper.com. Dennis got to show me how to do that, got me into that. And we do go out and find structures. Chip, he restored early homes, and that's what he did for a living. And so he can look at different things. And another thing with Chip, what Dennis and I don't see, Chip always sees if we're out in the woods or somewhere. We miss it. He says, "Hey, I look here," and he always spots it every time. And my thing to the Ramblers, I'm transportation. I got the boat, I got the car, I pack cookies, I pack water, everybody's happy.
How did you know that there were initials on those rocks?
The initials, the museum, Old Line Museum in Delta put out a book and it said about the initials on the rock. It took a long while to get permission to go back in. And once we got it, we dropped down and we kept looking until we located them. As far as Chip going down first, they didn't want the old guy to go down first. Because if he fell, it'd be 320 feet and they'd never find the poor guy. So Chip volunteered. And now we got, they put out, I can't think of the name of the book. River
in the Ridge.
River in the Ridge, and it was in there that it was initials down there. So I think our second time down with that one. And we did 2 trips in. The first time we couldn't locate him. We found some on top, but we wanted to look for that real engraved stone. And we had to go down over it. And back when they did that, we figured they had steps going down. It was a big picnic area. And they one guy, he was he searched, he's an archaeologist, and from Delta, his wife was sitting on that rock, and he took a picture of her in about 1875. I think it was 1875, 1880. They took a picture of her, Mrs. Baird. So when we went down, we sat where she was reading the book, and we took pictures of us reading the book. So
I'm just curious about this. Maybe you all are too. What's the most significant? What's your favorite find, or the Ramblers' favorite find?
Oh, I can't tell you that, Jim. I can't tell you that. The reason I can't tell you that, we found it here a couple of weeks ago, and there was 5 of us, and the 3 Ramblers were trying to get into the place. We couldn't get into it, so we had different people helping us to try to get in, and they failed at it. And we finally got in and found it. And I said to the one fella, "How long have you been wanting to see this?" He said, "Since 1980. And the other fella, he worked there when he was a kid. And the reason I can't talk about it, it's on private property. And we want to go on the guy's property again before I publicize that I'm out here blown off about what it was." We went out on Ramble here 2 weeks ago looking for, Burkholder Allen, there's a graveyard. And a fella came up from Florida that reads the Ramblers, the Facebook. And he came up from Florida and he said, "Would you take me out?" I said, "Sure, we'll take you out." But I said, "It's overgrown this time of year. You don't ramble this time of year in the woods. And we'll take you out." We went out, you get about 10 yards in, it's too much brambles and stuff. And I say, "If you come up in the fall, winter time, we'll take you out again. We'll look for the graveyard." There's the Burkholders graveyard. It was on, well, it's called Duncan Allen now. So, but if you give us a couple more months in the fall of the year, we're going back on that private property again and hiking down. And there's an old mill site down there. And there's other buildings down there. We want to hike it down, take pictures of them. Once we get that, then we'll publicize it. Then the guy can say, "You're not welcome back anymore."
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Dan Ramblers. Give him a hand.
I want to thank Jim for inviting us in. I want to thank Nicole. She worked with us, setting everything up. She did a great job on it. And I want to thank you. You did a wonderful job. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it's past everybody's bedtime. I seen 8 o'clock and I thought, man, I usually eat my snack here and get ready for bed.
If everybody has just about 5 more minutes, we can, you can go if you want, of course, but we normally like to have folks pitch some of the projects that are working on. So and that way you'll know, everybody knows what everybody else is working on. So maybe anybody want to pitch the project? Dominic? This will go quick, believe me.
So I'm currently working on trying to identify the unknown soldier in Paddletown Cemetery. So if anyone would be willing to pitch in with research, we are researching the 39th New York Infantry, the Garibaldi Guard, Company K. It was a company of Hungarian soldiers. We're going through the roster trying to find anyone that might not have claimed their pension or doesn't have a death certificate issued to them. He's been buried in the cemetery since 1895 to 1910. We think we found a newspaper article from 1904 that a Hungarian man was hit by a train in Goldsboro and unidentified. So it fits the time period, it fits the description. So if anyone wants to pitch in on that, we are looking for volunteers to help us. It's going to be a really expensive project because we're going to end up having to exhume the body and get forensic DNA testing done on him. So if you have a rich friend or you know a scientist, let me know. But I run Preserving the History of Newburytown on Facebook, so you can contact me there. Thank you.
Hey, Tom or Jerry, anything to pitch? Come on up real quick.
We met some trespassers tonight that might be able to help you with that.
Okay, I'm Tom Yingling. I'm president of the Cadores Valley Area Historical Society. We're located in Jefferson, but not here to talk about that. We're working on a mill project called the York County Mill Consortium, working in conjunction with the York History Center. So we're looking at a collection that a fellow by the name of Grant Bowden did, started in 1940 all the way up into 1980, where he collected information, took photographs, talked to some of the last mill operators, water power mill operators in York County. Did an incredible job, but it was such a huge job. There's mills that were missed, there's some misinformation. And so anyhow, a fellow by the name of Rick Resch and myself, we're part of our Cadores Valley Historical Society. We're working and along with some other volunteers, we're looking for more volunteers to do this. Rick gave me a whole big list to read off. I'm not going to do that, but we're looking for some more volunteers to help us with this. It does involve some deep dive, deed searches, tax list searches. There's just a lot of information. York County has a incredible library up here of information, but we're trying to go a little bit verify what Grant Bowden did. There's missing files. We have missing mills. Some of these mills came in and out by 1800, and some a little bit later. One of the things Chip said was on, a matter of fact, right here, this flint, where this flint is, or quartz is. So flint mills were in and out probably within about 30 years in York County. So some of those aren't mentioned. So anyhow, we're looking at that kind of thing. And if you're willing to help look at that, It can be a lot of fun, but we're also finding, it can be pretty confusing too, looking through some of these things. So you can contact me before I leave here. I can give you my card. You can get a hold of me if you need to do that. And for those who are looking at this remotely, you can contact me at CadorsValleyAHS@gmail.com. So thank you.
Yes, come on up. Paul Devin, do you have anything? Anybody else?
Doing anything.
Figured I'll follow up on what Tom was talking about. I'm working on a similar project. I'm want to write a book about York County grist mills. I did one in Lancaster County, so now I'm working on this side. So I've been downstairs and went through the grant voter files and now doing the deep dive to figure out what's real and what's not, and hopefully put together a book that people want to read. So don't know when that'll be done, but that's what I'm working on.
Could you identify yourself in case someone wants to contact you?
Yeah. So my name is Don Couts. I'm a Lancastrian, so I'm over here spying on you guys.
Okay, thank you all very much. Tommy will end us here. Go home.
Okay, so thank you all for coming tonight and for tuning in online. And in December, we will meet again at 7 o'clock. And it's going to be Scott Deisley giving us a presentation in December. So we hope to have another really good in-person crowd. This was really good. I think this broke a record. So thank you guys for coming, and we look forward to seeing you again in December.
Thank you all.